We're joined now by two former Democratic senators on opposite sides of this. Joe Lieberman, one of the founding chairs of No Labels, elected as an independent in his last term, and Doug Jones, part of a new group that's joined forces to oppose this third-party effort. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Senator Lieberman, let me begin with you. Back when you were running as vice president on Al Gore's ticket in 2000, you warned that Ralph Nader would be a spoiler in the election. It turned out that he was right. Aren't you concerned that's going to happen this time around?
No, I mean, we've made very clear that we're not in this to be spoilers. We're in this to give the majority of the American people who feel that the major two parties are failing them a third choice, both in policies such as we're going to release in New Hampshire tomorrow, but also possibly in a third candidate. And we've been very explicit, and we're just watch us. If the polling next year shows, after the two parties have chosen their nominees, that in fact we will help elect one or another candidate, we're not going to get involved. The other thing to say, George, is if the two parties listen and maybe think about what we're trying to do, and they pay attention to the numbers Rick Klein spoke of. I mean, 60–70% of the American people don't want the choice of Donald Trump and Joe Biden again. An enormous number are now saying they're independents, not members of the two major parties. The two major parties are failing the American people, and that's because the American people see that the Republicans and Democrats spend most of their time fighting each other to maintain their own power instead of working together to fix our country and make it better. So we're trying to give voice to that majority of the American people, the common sense majority that wants something different than the two parties. I'll just sum it up this way, George. The problem is not the third choice that No Labels is offering the American people. The problem is the American people are not buying what the two parties are selling anymore.
How about that argument, Senator Jones?
It would be wiser to think about that. Yes.
70% of Americans don't want Biden to run. 60% say they don't want Trump to run.
You know, those polls right now mean nothing, George. You know that. You've gone through this process before. The same could have almost been true for Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, for John McCain and Barack Obama. Polls a year and a half out mean nothing. And the fact of the matter is, we've got a president who has spent the last 2.5 years bringing jobs to this country, 13 million. He's bringing down inflation. He's brought Americans' allies back together. He's brought an infrastructure bill. He has brought a PAC Act and CHIPS Act. He's done all the things for the American people, but he has governed. He's not been a candidate. Right now, this past weekend, you saw that the Biden-Harris team raised $70 million. 30% of those were new donors. That is not a candidate that is being rejected by the American people. And as Chris Christie said, it is folly. It is a fool's errand to think that a third party can win in this country. There is no way on God's green earth that they can get to 270 electoral votes, which means they will be a spoiler. One way or another, they'll be a spoiler. And as Rick Klein said, it looks like they will be a spoiler in favor of Donald Trump, and that will be the biggest threat to democracy that we have seen since January 6th.
This is Senator Lieberman. You said that if the polling shows next year that is the case, that No Labels would be a spoiler one way or the other, then No Labels would stand down. That sort of runs against human nature, doesn't it? Once a campaign starts, it's hard to stop.
Well, we'll see. Look, the polling a year and a half out, as Doug Jones just said, really should be taken as a warning by the two parties. The American people don't like what the two parties are doing, and they particularly don't like the two candidates that they seem set on nominating. So we're trying to offer a third choice, both in the policies that we're issuing tomorrow, which really speak for the majority of the American people. And I'm happy to say that in all our polling, we show that the American people are much more united than the leaders of the two parties who thrive on division would indicate. So, no, we're in this. Listen, we have said all along that we're not yearning to run a third-party ticket. If one or both parties move more toward the center in their policies, George, and maybe think about the two candidates being so unpopular among the American people, we won't run. We also said we won't run if the polling shows we're going to be spoilers. But, you know, Ross Perot was not a spoiler. He took, by the exit polls, evenly from both parties, and he put the balanced budget on the national agenda as a priority. And lo and behold, President Clinton ran with it, worked with Newt Gingrich on a bipartisan basis, and got it done. In the last 3 years of the Clinton administration, actually, we ran a surplus in the federal government. That's why we're talking about running a bipartisan unity ticket for president. Unprecedented, at least since 1864. It's unusual, and we know the odds for third parties, but we think the American people are so fed up with the two parties, optimistic about the course that our country is on, that they may well be ready for a third choice, a bipartisan unity choice next year. And if that's the way the polling looks, we're going to run.
Senator Jones, I know you've joined this group with my former boss, Dick Gephardt, to counter no labels. Is there a strategy in place to head this off? What is it?
Well, I think it's getting the same messages out. It is basically saying, you know, no labels is looking at a centrist candidate. We've got a centrist candidate, George. We've got Joe Biden. Look at what he has done, bringing the infrastructure package together, pulling that together for the first time in decades to do infrastructure, for the PAC Act, the CHIPS Act. You can go time and time again. Senator Manchin has had a tremendous effect on the Biden administration's climate agenda. You've got a centrist candidate. I don't know why in the world somebody thinks that Joe Biden's administration is so far left, unlike a Donald Trump or someone else that is an extreme right. The second thing about this that I think the message has to get out is that No Label says they want to be democratic. They want to give people a choice. But guess what? They're not disclosing their donors. They're not playing by the same rules. You got a bunch of mega-rich Republican donors who are pushing this agenda. They won't disclose who those donors are. And it's going to be those donors, and I presume Senator Lieberman, who are going to select the nominee. It will be a coronation whenever they do that. That's not very democratic. That's not a choice. It's a false choice and really an illusion as to what they're doing.
Senator Jones, Senator Lieberman, thank you very much for your time this morning.